Glad you're in Clubhouse this morning. Good to see you. All right. Fantastic. All right. For those of you that have never joined us before, we are live on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on YouTube. Yes. Getting ready to get moving here. All right, I don't know where we are, what channels we're on that it's live right now. I know sometimes it gets a little bit funky, but I'm just gonna operate in faith right now, making sure. Let me just double check a couple other channels, but I think we're good. Looks like we're rocking and rolling. We got about a minute or so. Instagram people, hey, David, the digital creator. Fantastic. Glad you're here this morning. We are starting with the show here. Got about 45 seconds or so before we go live with the, there we go. All right. So glad that y'all are here this morning. I see some of you in the Monday Mindset Movement group. Yes, if you've never been, if you're not a part of the group, you can just look up Monday Mindset Movement 2023 on Facebook, and you can join our community there. So glad that you are here this morning. All right, we get ready to get started with the show. We are getting ready to get started. Boom. Yeah, come on, keep the music going. Let's go, keep the music going. Hey, y'all, what's happening? What's happening? My name is Robert Kennedy III, RK3, that's me, and welcome to the Monday Mindset Movement, the show where we give you about 15 or 20 minutes of elevation, inspiration, and motivation designed to get you rocking and rolling through your week. Oh, yes. I'm glad that y'all are here. Some of you that are online, Satska Lee, David, the digital creator, what's going on this morning? Norma Bonner, good to see you this morning. Jamie Quinto, good to see you this morning. Swinder Apparels, so glad that you're here. Patsy Irish, Antonio Sepulveda, good to see you this morning. Letitia, good to see you this morning. Jonathan, glad that y'all are here this morning. My goodness, it's y'all are ready to rock. Yes, let's do this thing. I'm so glad that you're here this morning. Let's jump on in. Oh my goodness. If you want to be a part of the Monday Mindset Movement, do me a favor. Search Monday Mindset Movement on Facebook, join the community there, or you can just get connected with us, know when we're going live by texting go live to 24055 story. Text 240, oh my gosh. Go live to 240-557-8679. All right, we're gonna get rocking and rolling this morning. Ooh, yeah, here we go. Boom. Got a quick message for you. Hey there, real estate agents and entrepreneurs. Now, you know you need to be on video, but you don't want to dance. You don't want to point at random places on your screen. You don't want it to be hard, and you want to be able to connect in a way that is authentic and ultimately brings you leads. Well, you're in luck. I want to invite you to the Monetizing and Selling with Video Storytelling 3-day challenge. Okay, so there might be a little bit of dancing in the challenge. Yeah, there may be. But I can promise you there's not going to be any pointing. It's going to be simple. And we're going to share with you a way that you can get on camera, get on video, on film in a way that is authentic, personalized to you, and ultimately has your leads coming to you. Wouldn't that be great? Do me a favor. Click the link in the description, or you can just head on over to videostorytellingchallenge.com. That's videostorytellingchallenge.com. We're getting started real soon. Come on in. It's going to be great. Hey, y'all, join us for the Monetizing and Selling with Video Storytelling Challenge starting tomorrow, March 14th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go to videostorytellingchallenge.com to get registered for that. All right. So we're going to get started, but I've got a question for you. Have you ever felt overwhelmed? Have you ever felt like you needed a break from all of it? Man, wow. Why aren't there more hours in the day? Well, let's talk about that this morning. Boom. Here we go. What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? How y'all doing this morning? Again, welcome to the Monday Mindset Movement. So glad that you are here today. Man, do you need a break? Do you need a break? Do you wish there were like 27.5 hours in the day? I've heard that said before, but unfortunately, we have no choice over that, right? We've just got to work with what we've got to work with. And some of us are working super hard, so hard that we feel overwhelmed. Are you one of those people? Do you feel overwhelmed like you need a vacation every other day? Yeah. Well, here's the deal. Several months ago, I started this program called 75 Hard. And how 75 Hard works, it's this mental toughness program by Andy Frisella. And what happens is that there's several different criteria or several things that you've got to do during the 75 Hard. So you've got to do it 75 days in a row. You've got to work out twice a day. You've got to have two exercise periods in your day. One of them must be outdoors. And then you've got to drink a gallon of water. You've got to read for 10 minutes or 10 pages each day. And then there's several other pieces to this. Now, this program is called 75 Hard for a reason. Not only is it outside of what most people do normally, it's challenging, right? And so I decided that I was going to start this program, and I jumped in, hard. I jumped right on in, and I was doing my exercise 2 times daily, got up about halfway into the program, about 40 something days in. And then one day, all of a sudden I noticed that I started to get dizzy. Yeah, I started to get dizzy. And I try to push through, try to gut it out. But the more that I did it, the dizzier I got. I thought it was something that it was just a passing moment and I would get through it, but I just kept getting dizzy. And so I decided that I was going to stop the program because one of the things my wife told me, she said, dude, you jumped in hard. You just started drinking a gallon of water. Your body wasn't used to that. Your body wasn't ready for that. You just jumped on in. But for me, I felt like I failed. I felt like I didn't succeed. I felt like I'd let myself down. How many of you have felt like that? You've been working hard at something. You've been fighting. You've been pushing. And then something happens and you feel like you let yourself down. Go ahead and type yes in the chat if you've ever had that feeling. Doris J., good to see you this morning. Lachelle Adkins, so glad that you're here this morning. Right? And so I've had that happen several times in my life. There was this other time where I read this book called The 12-Week Year by Brian Moran. And what the premise of that book is that instead of having all of these goals that you are going to accomplish over the course of a year or 5 years, why not focus on one thing for 12 weeks and make crazy momentum in that 12 weeks? So I decided that I was going to focus on writing. I wanted to focus on writing every day for 12 weeks because at that time I was blogging and I was in the space of writing books and those types of things. And so what happened was I decided that I wanted to write every day for 12 weeks, but I wanted to write 500 words daily. So I started out, I was writing 500 words daily. I think I got 2 weeks in before I missed my first day. I missed a day. I just wasn't able to write for one reason or the other. It was a while ago, so I don't even remember what the reason was. But I missed a day. I got back on it the next day, and then a few days later, I missed another day. I got back on it, and then a few days later, I missed another day. And by the time we were a month in, 30 days in, I had missed maybe about 4 or 5 days. And now I was starting to feel like I was failing because I was missing these days. But here's what I didn't give myself grace or credit for. There were a lot of things happening in my space at that time. I had a business that was failing. I had family members who were sick. My grandmother had passed away. Right? We had a whole lot of different things happening at that time, but I felt like I failed. I felt like I wasn't working hard enough. I felt like I wasn't pushing hard enough. I felt like I could have worked more or worked harder. I could have fought harder. How many of you feel like you could fight harder. Even though you feel overwhelmed, you're like, man, I'm not doing enough. I'm not working hard enough. I need a break. I'm not doing enough. Two separate things, it feels like, right? Now, my gosh. So here's the thing that I've learned inside of some of this. I do these beach body programs, these exercise programs. And one of the things that I see incorporated into the program is what is called either a rest day or a recovery day. So here's what happens. You work out hard for 4 days or 5 days, and then you take 2 days to recover, right? And then notice that they're not saying rest as in stop or sleep. They're saying recover. And in actuality, I may be doing these full body exercises or these full body workouts for the entire week. But then on the recovery days, I take time away from pushing so hard and I turn my focus. I do something else. I stretch, or I do yoga, or I do something that's easy or low impact. Why is it important to recover rather than stop? Well, see, when you're in growth mode and you've got momentum happening and you're doing something that is intended to help you to grow. And sometimes it's tense. Sometimes it feels like a grind. Sometimes it feels like a fight. Sometimes it's important to not stop, but change your focus from that fight thing, from that tense thing, from that hard thing, just for a moment, so that you can reflect, so that you can assess, so that you can evaluate, so that you can recover. You're still moving forward, but you are recovering. And I've learned again that when you're in growth mode, you don't always need to fight through something, right? Sometimes you can turn the activity meter way down or change the activity briefly, right? Because the obstacle isn't the enemy. The thing that's in front of you isn't the enemy. The challenge isn't the enemy. The enemy may be the normal, the routine, the mundane. And here's what a lot of us don't realize. We're fighting so hard, we're fighting the same fight all the time. And if you're constantly fighting the same fight, you may actually be lulling yourself to sleep, thinking that you're doing something because you're fighting. So we're constantly fighting the same people at work. We're constantly fighting the same challenge in our relationship. We're constantly fighting the same fight with our kids. We're constantly fighting the same fight with our church. We're constantly fighting the same fight in our own brains every single day. And here's what most of us do when we're constantly fighting that fight. We think that we've got to fight harder. We feel like we gotta do more. We've got to push more. And then we end up saying, oh my gosh, I don't have enough time in the day. I feel overwhelmed. But more often than not, when we feel overwhelmed, what do? We do more. We put more stuff in our space. And it sometimes feels better to say out loud, say out of our mouths, yeah, I need a break. Oh my gosh, I'm struggling. Oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed. It feels better to do the complaint than to actually do the recovery. And the recovery is not what we call stopping. The recovery is changing focus or changing gears so that you can get back on the horse or have a new perspective on that fight that you're fighting. Catherine May, if you look at my quote today, it says the needle breaks the fabric in order to repair it. You can't have one without the other, right? Catherine May wrote this book called Wintering, the importance of rest and recovery during difficult times. And she talks about this concept called winter, right? The winter of our lives. And as we talk about winter for a second here, as we fight in our lives, there's some reasons that we feel like we need to fight, right? So if you go back to the stories that I shared with you about me and feeling like I failed, that's one of the reasons that we fight, that we stay busy, right? Because if we're not busy and something breaks, it's like we didn't do anything to prevent the breakage. So we feel the need to fight because resting feels like failure. right? We also feel the need to fight because we feel like without that fight, we can't achieve something. But strangely, we feel the need to fight because we also want to avoid pain, right? But sometimes that pain is just what we need for the growth. And sometimes that pain is part of the winter that we have. And sometimes we need to winter. Winter isn't stopping. Winter isn't stopping. Winter, what does winter look like? Winter may look like doing something different at a different pace. I've said that, with a different intent. Winter or wintering may be necessary, especially when you're faced with difficulty. Let me read something that Catherine May has in this book. And she says this. She talks about how we fight against pain, or we fight against our rest or recovery periods. We fight against our winter. But here's what she says. She says, plants and animals don't fight the winter. They don't pretend it's not happening and attempt to carry on living the same lives that they lived in the summer. They prepare, they adapt, they perform extraordinary acts of metamorphosis to get them through. Winter is a time of withdrawing from the world, maximizing your scant resources, carrying out acts of brutal efficiency, and vanishing from sight sometimes. But that's where the transformation occurs, she says. Winter is not the death of the life cycle, but it is its crucible. Wow. Yeah. Right. So that time when you are in challenge, that time when you are in difficulty, the time when you are experiencing the obstacle or the pain, right? We want to fight against it or we want to avoid it. But what she's saying here is that they don't pretend it's not happening. They don't attempt to carry on. Plants and animals don't attempt to carry on the same lives that they lived when times were good in the summer. They prepare and they adapt. So the question for you yourself is, are you adapting? What is it that you're doing? Are you adapting? Are you wintering? Right? Are you doing something different? Are you changing your focus? Wintering isn't vacation. It's not just chilling out on the beach, right? Wintering is actually the courage to stare down the worst parts of our experience and to commit to healing them the best that we can. So as we do every week, I like to share some actions. So as you've gone through this thing and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed. I need to rest. Instead of just rest or stopping, think recovery. How can I change focus? How can I step away? How can I step back for a moment and look at this thing through a different lens? How can I look at my pain through a different lens? And how can I seek healing by viewing it differently? So here's the action for this week. Number one, check your life for change, right? Assess where you are fighting, but not seeing any difference. I want you to look at your life and think about the things, the areas, the relationships, the activities that you're doing, that you're fighting hard, but you're not seeing any difference. That may be a space where you need to winter for a moment. Okay. And once you've checked your life for change, once you've assessed where you're fighting, commit to wintering or entering recovery mode. When we think about wintering and we think about animals do what we call hibernation in winter, right? And when they hibernate, it may look like they've stopped, but internally their bodies are still moving, is still working. All they've done is slow down and they've entered this recovery mode so that they can prepare for the next season. So number two, commit to entering that recovery mode. Number three, accept your slowdown or your recovery time, and then choose how you will move next. Decide what your next movement is going to be. We talk about the Monday mindset movement. What's your movement going to be next? So I'll repeat those actions. Check your life for change, right? Assess where you're fighting and not seeing any difference. And then once you figure that out, commit to wintering or entering recovery mode. And then number 3, accept that recovery mode, accept that wintering. And then while you're there, choose how you will move next. Listen, I hope this was valuable or helpful to you. Today is Monday. Monday. And we want to shift your mindset to a place of growth. But it doesn't just start and stop on Monday. We want to encourage you to take your Monday mindset into tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Make a choice. Move. Start a movement. Be a movement. Join me next week at 8 a.m. on Clubhouse, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn for the next Monday Mindset Movement. Yes. I'll see you next time. Peace.